So, did you make your list?
What list?
Look, we're looking at our favorite trilogies. The purest, the 3-act structure.
Hold on.
Beginning, middle, end.
Wait a minute. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I believe, at least to my knowledge right now, in my life, I have read one trilogy.
You've got a favorite.
Yeah.
Unless you absolutely hated it. And hold that. But don't say.
Okay.
Because that's a great teaser. Welcome back to Talking Story. My name is John Minton. That's my literary wingman right there. The one son, the best producer on BookTube, the man, the myth, from Milton Bradley, the board game, coming out this Christmas your way.
What is wrong with you?
You know what? I don't know. I'm kind of excited about this list.
I thought you were going to say the one son to rule them all. I was pretty excited. I think that's a good title to have. I like that.
That's a new one.
I thought that's where you were going.
But that's unfair. So many people have wonderful sons. You can't.
Yeah, but I mean, you can make it your son. You only have one son, so it's one son to rule them all.
Well, there's Pooh. He thinks he counts.
He doesn't. He does not count.
Well, he thinks he does. So, all right, before we get rolling,
yes,
into our list of favorite trilogies, which I'm a little nervous about my list because there's so many amazing trilogies I hear that I have not got to yet. So my list is always, as always, this is a reading journey we're sharing, incomplete, and we can't wait to hear what I need to be getting to, right?
Well,
so
the TBR,
let's just throw that.
The TBR
let's throw that caveat
up.
Right out there.
TBR never goes down, so you're never done.
Only goes up. Only goes up. So, what was you said you have one, a completed. Was it a good one? Did you love it?
I'm sure there's more that I have that I'm not thinking of, but at least at the top of my mind, the only trilogy I can think of that I've read is Red Rising.
Well, I would count that as a longer.
The first three people consider a trilogy.
I'll give it to you. So you'll say that's your fave? You're going with fave on that? I
guess I have to.
Yeah.
I can't think of another.
You better fix that.
It's a lot of things I have to fix.
You better get to work. All right, look, I can't stand it anymore. We need to get to my list.
Okay. Well, you've been tweaking this list for a long time, so there's a lot of build-up.
I have been, and listen, I got some alternates, and the reasons for the alternates, my first batch of alternates is because I'm waiting for these to be finished.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a trilogy kind of the author hasn't come across the finish line yet, and I'm kind of waiting for them, but they would absolutely, if they land the plane the way I think they will, make my all-time favorite list.
Well, let's hear it. I want to know your alternates.
So here's some alternates. Number one is Shadow of the Leviathan trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. Book 1 is The Tainted Cup. Book 2 is slated to come out, I believe it's called A Drop of Corruption, later this year. Has a release date and everything. So, oh man, I loved the beginning of this trilogy. Only one book in, but already it kind of makes my list as an alternate because this is just mystery upon mystery upon mystery. First of all, you kind of have this Holmesian feel to it as this investigation goes on. But with Anna and Din, their new partners kind of coming together, have that Holmes and Watson feel in this amazingly fresh, bizarre, fungal punk fantasy world. And as you start uncovering, it's a mystery of somebody that there's a murder at the very beginning, the way these things kind of happen in books like this. And as they start going down the trail of this mystery investigation, you start finding out it's mystery upon mystery upon mystery. Anna and Din's backstory and history and what they've gotten into in the past, how it factors into this current mystery, how this current mystery filters and layers through all the levels of the bureaucracy and government of this world. And if this is not enough, if you kind of like an investigation of mystery and this doesn't kind of perk your ears up a little bit already, how about like Leviathans banging on the door of the coast of this beautiful coastal city? It's a ticking clock before this Leviathan launches itself on and destroys the city if they can't come up with answers. And then there's so many hanging threads in this tapestry, so many cliffhangers left at the end of this that we start to find out these mysteries not only of character, but world and investigation. By the end, there's just more and more threads that are left dangling that I cannot wait for books 2 and 3 to start to pull this tapestry together. Just loved the beginning of this. Can't wait for book 2. Has to make my alternate, even though it's not finished.
I was going to say, is it if there were 2 books out, would it maybe be higher up in the alternate list?
Not finished. Can't make a list. Look,
Okay.
for my top 10 list, it has to be finished, and I have to have read all 3 books.
Okay, I understand.
So this is alternate for I've read the only book that's out, but it's not finished.
You don't
Can't
yell at me.
count it.
There's no need for anger.
Well, you know what? You with one trilogy, questioning my rubric of how I put my list together.
Well, you didn't have to make me.
I will turn this whole thing around.
Okay.
Books 1 and 2 are out of Jay Kristoff's trilogy, Empire of the Vampire, Empire of the Damned. Wow, this is just everything to me. I'm a huge horror fan from back in the day, and this wonderful marriage of epic fantasy and gothic horror just hits it out of the park for me. The last knight errant standing in this world shrouded in darkness, that the vampires get to come out and play at all hours because the sun has been taken away. How can you address a quest like this? What has to happen? The last knight errant, Gabriel Saint de Leon, sets out on a quest to solve this. And how do you address this? What quest do you set out? You've got to find the Holy Grail. But in this series, the Holy Grail, just like the rest of the world, is wonderfully, beautifully twisted in darkness. It's a little bit different. Everything is a little bit different. It's grand, it's sweeping, it's operatic. This character, Gabriel Saint de Leon, is the most anti of anti-heroes. This just fires on all cylinders. Book 2 even opened the world up further. Now that we have a world shrouded in darkness that the vampires get to come out and play at all hours, they get to rule as the aristocracy. We get further out into the world and we see they're not the only creatures in this world that are impacted and involved by this happening of everything being shrouded. It's such a great marriage of gothic darkness, epic fantasy, the bizarre quests, great world building, amazing prose if you like some pretty inventive profanity, which can always be fun. It just fires on every cylinder for me. Book 3, I think, is coming out by end of this year, so this could absolutely be on the list next year for best all-time favorite fantasy, because I'm sure he's going to land this plane. I just have no doubt about it. But I'm just waiting for the final book in that trilogy.
There's no release date for that or anything yet, is there?
I don't think there's a release date, but I do think, watching social media with him, that he's close to being finished.
Oh, okay. Understood.
Or like close to announcing a date, or he's like on the finish line, or he's on target. And look, I'm not the only one waiting for the King Killer Chronicles to end. We've got books 1 and 2. Will we ever see book 3? I don't know. But there's no way this can't make it on my list. I just so adore this prose. It's so lyrical. It's so beautiful. It's just such a wonderful example of epic fantasy. It captures all the tropes that brought me to this type of literature. And it's so lovingly done. And it's so beautiful to read. Book 2 wasn't quite up to where I thought book 1 was, but still so fun. I love the framing narrative device that's used. I just so much about it. And I just think Patrick Rothfuss as a wordsmith is just way up there for me. Just absolutely beautiful. And if we can ever get book 3 and finish Quoth's story, I will be there day one. This would absolutely probably make my best list if we ever see book 3, and I would love to see it someday. So these are my alternates because they are unfinished by the writer, and I'm waiting impatiently, in some cases, for the next or final books to come out.
Well, for that last one, you're going to have to garner some patience, and
I might just have to give up.
yeah, I think just that one being on the list somewhere, Richard from Tater Ramble just threw up in his mouth. But
well, and he will have to be the first to admit. And I've heard him say it's beautifully written.
yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
can't-
absolutely, yeah.
It's not his cup of tea how it was put together, but it's just, it's gorgeously written. Okay, so I'm going to get another stack, and we're going to do my next little group of alternates, which is going to be the trilogy is completed, but I'm in the middle of reading them. I haven't completed the trilogy yet.
How many lists are within this list?
You know what? You back off, buddy.
This is,
Mr. I had one.
This is an
I'm trying to make up for
aggressive side
your.
of you.
So you ready for the next? This is just a couple. I'm in the middle of this trilogy. Completed, I haven't completed them, so I can't put them on the list.
So it's your fault, one might say.
Absolutely my fault. Absolutely my fault. So, Richard Swan, Empire of the Wolf. This is the final book. I am days away from picking up book 2 in Empire of the Wolf by Richard Swan. Trials of Empire, I have the final book here. So it is completed. And I just so liked the beginning of this. This is a story of empire sprawling outwards and a traveling barrister on the edges of this empire. A traveling barrister traveling with his assistant and guard, and they're taking cases on the edge of this empire as it sprawls ever outward. Now, this traveling barrister, Von Volt, has such a moral core, and everything revolves around his ideology and belief system of, as this empire grows larger and larger through conflict, the one way that everyone can join and come together and be a part of the society is through justice. That is the ultimate equalizer if we all answer to the same code of justice. And he's driven by this manner, and he's out on the outskirts, and he gets wrapped up in a murder mystery. And he probably, like a dog with a bone, should have let this go. As the empire sprawls, we start to see schisms in the hierarchy of this empire. Who will control some of this magic that's used between church and state? And as this civil war starts to seethe and breathe and come together and come to life and start to pull at the very threads of this empire, he probably should have investigated. He probably should have thrown himself in. He maybe could have made a difference, but no, he can't let go of the case that he's involved with, because even these people on the outskirts need to answer for what they've done, and we all must have the same level of justice or the whole thing falls apart. This is his ideology that he will not let go of, and as things start to come apart around him because of his very ideology, we get to see this amazing character journey spiraling downward because of what he believed in and what he couldn't let go of. It's a lovely, amazing character journey to go on. The world building is just astounding, with a dark thread of cosmic horror through it that I just think gets stronger and stronger through books 2 and 3, if I hear correctly. Everything about this just spoke to me. I just so liked the first book, and I'm sure after I pick up book 2 here in a couple days and get to book 3, I'm sure this will probably be on my list eventually, but I have not finished it, even though all 3 books are out.
Wonderful. I do remember you giving that one very high praise, so that one doesn't surprise
really,
me.
really like that one. And then the other one I'm kind of in the middle of that I've started. I've read book 1 of Kagan the Damned. And I have not got to books 2 and 3. Oh, and you talk about cosmic horror. This is everything. This trilogy is by Jonathan Mayberry. Always get that wrong.
How dare you?
I know, and he corrected me himself. It's the Scottish pronunciation. So this is such an amazing dark world, so influenced by H.P. Lovecraft's work. And it's just, if you're looking for grimdark, every trigger warning in the world, there are moments of this that are just like, wow, I cannot believe it went that far. It goes that deep. Kagan himself, who is in charge of basically looking after the royal family, takes a night off. It's his night off. Everyone's entitled. And while his back is turned, one empire is stripped and driven into the ground, and another one rises up in its place with the King in Yellow. And for those H.P. Lovecraft fans or Mythos fans out there, you will absolutely recognize that. And then it's just a quest or a mystery of this Kagan coming to terms with what's happened and what he's let happen while his back was turned, and how he is cursed by his gods, and what he can do to atone for it. And book 1 was, for a Lovecraft fan, was just so much fun to read. It was an absolute joy. It was like a big box of Cthulhu chocolates, and you just had to taste every single one of them to see what was inside. And if you know Jonathan Mayberry's work, you know he works in an extended universe. This actually, his first epic fantasy is in that universe. His Joe Ledger series, his zombie series, all of those things happened long, long ago. And this is after the fall of all of that, when civilization starts to rise up, and it has a bit of a medieval feel. I can't wait to get back to it. I'm sure it'll probably be on my list eventually, but I have only read book 1 so far. So that is the other one that I'm in the middle of and have yet to finish. This is book 3 here, The Dragon in Winter.
Any plans to pick up the next one anytime soon?
Definitely this year. Definitely this year I'll be getting to book 2, no doubt. Just a quick break in the action to thank all of our correspondents, directors, and producers on Patreon. These people keep the lights on. They make decisions for us because we don't know what we're doing. We're not great at making the decisions around here. The decisions all the way from what I'm going to read next, what the book club of the month Patreon pick is going to be, but all the way up to video ideas and what we're going to do here on the channel coming up for you. If you're interested or you want to find out how you can be a part of this, right down there in the description box, click the Patreon link. It's got all the answers for you. And once again, thank you to all of these fine people that are helping us build the channel, our correspondents, directors, and producers. Now we are ready to get into the list. My top 10 trilogies. Love the 3-act structure of trilogies, beginning, middle, end. Love longer series as well. Love standalones, but there's something that I just think this is just so pure, the 3-act structure. So this is such a great list for me. And please let me know again what I haven't got to yet that I should be. So here we're going to go from 10 through 5, and then I'll get the next stack. Some of these I don't have up here, bud, so you can throw a cover up with me, right?
Just let me know.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So here we go with number 10. Is the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I don't have it. Throw it up here if you would. Okay. I know this is divisive for a lot of folks. I thought a lot of this worked for me. It comes in at number 10 for me. The reason being, I did read all 3. I did finish it. It did speak to me in a lot of ways. And why it did is because I thought the artist here, the writer, N.K. Jemisin, took some humongous swings, subversions or big swings on structure, character reveal, world building, the social mirror tie-in of the reflection of this fantasy world of what we're actually living through and dealing with in our world. These were large swings. Now, I understand why some people it doesn't speak to them or it doesn't work for them because of all these things that I just laid out. But I have to give it a spot on my top 10 list there. I think there's an absolute reason why it won the Hugo Award like 3 years concurrently. Because it was so different. This broken world as they're trying to save what's left of it and put it back together. And what happens when your saviors are some of those parts of society that don't quite fit in, and some of these questions just ferment over years and years and years. And there's such a backlog and lore of history of what's come before and how this other group that has been othered and bullied into help saving them have been treated. And it's just absolutely the cultural and sociological tie-ins between what we have done in the real world is absolutely astounding. I truly, truly enjoyed it. I highly recommend it, but I do understand why it can be a trampoline series and people can bounce off of that first book because the structure of it, the tenses of it, it does work in a very different way.
Interesting. I didn't know about this one. I might have to look into that.
Yeah, you may like it. It's very different. Very different. The next one is, you're going to have to throw this up there too. I didn't have it up here. Number 9, I got to go The 5 Warrior Angels by Brian Lee Durfee. If you want a trilogy that is just metal. You want to read somebody that lives their dreams. You want to read somebody that's like, you know what? I'm going for it. I'm going to leave it all out there on the field. It is going to be quite possibly the most over-the-top, bonkers, action-packed trilogy that has ever happened, but I don't care. I'm leaving nothing out. That is this trilogy. It has things that you recognize as far as the medieval setting and elves and all that kind of thing, but then it's so twisted and so dark and so different. And wow, I didn't think he could top the battle at the end of book 2, but then the battle at the end of book 3 that takes up like 150, 200 pages. Like when the big battle comes, like it comes, it leaves a mark. It is so over the top. You feel like you're going to walk out and your car will be dented out front of your house. Like it is that huge and sprawling and big. I just adore how Brian Lee Durfee lived his dream with this, left it all on the field and said, I am going for it. A bit darker, some themes as far as addiction and anti-heroes, and it is a shell game of who the chosen one is right up until the very end. You will wonder who is actually chosen by destiny to come through, and he plays this shell game so well. This game of 3-card Monty that he plays all the way through all 3 books is so fun to follow, and so aggravating at times. It has to make my list. It's at number 9.
Wow, man. I didn't know Brian Lee Durfee was going to be on the list for you. That's really cool. I like that.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Number 8. Another friend of the channel.
Ooh, okay.
And I have this one with me. I'm talking about the Adan trilogy by Dr. Philip Chase, Dr. Fantasy himself. This was such a special trilogy for me. Because first of all, you read something by a friend and it's like, oh, I'm excited to read my friend's work. And then you read something by a friend that truly speaks to you. It's just such a special gift. And Dr. Chase fully gave this to me. If you take an artist who set about on a journey when they were a young boy, a young person that reads Lord of the Rings for the first time and is struck and got the calling that I want to be a storyteller. And this informs his life, and he follows the footstep of Dr. Tolkien to become a doctor himself, a medievalist, to speak ancient and lost languages so he can start to world build and create lore and languages of his own. And then you couple with that of someone's own personal journey into adulthood as they look for spiritual answers and reasons why this world works the way they work, and how we are all joined and come together. And all of that factors into his work as well. You get such an amazing peek into the window of the artist, and it is so well paid off by the work itself. He's so amazingly, it's like a high wire circus act. He walks this tightrope line between beautiful, classic fantasy that you would read like in The Lord of the Rings, and subverts that with some newer, darker twist. And darker twist, he throws you in right at the beginning into the deep end of this pool. This is a holy war, and it is an unflinching look at conflict and what it can do to us and the prices we pay individually and as a society as a whole. And then as he grows as an artist, just in the working of this trilogy, by the time he gets to book 3, he subverts what you would think that 3-act structure would give you. It's a completely different direction for book 3. Some of my favorite characters don't even pop up until book 3. Like it is a journey not only of an artist's expression and a life lived, but also just an amazing work of literature in the fantasy genre. He just walks that line and has a foot in the classic and the traditions of the new, and it just all succeeds. And he's got a sequel coming, so I can't call this maybe a trilogy for much longer because it'll be 4. But he planned it as a trilogy, and right now I'm calling it as a trilogy, and it is number 8 for me. The Adan trilogy by Dr. Philip Chase.
Well, it can stay on this list for now.
Yep, until he brings out book 4. Then it has to move up to my larger full series list.
Well, what a shame.
But I can't count it until that book's out.
Stays on.
These are the rules. These are the rules from the home office. I just follow them. I don't make them.
The rules. What are you talking about?
No, they come in from the home office.
No.
We just punch a clock here. We're just employees. Okay, so let's get to number 7. Oh, I like this one a lot. This is the Last War trilogy by Mike Shackle.
Of course.
This is so much fun. Again, a kind of a bit of look at a holy war, but this is a little bit different because the compression of time in this trilogy is so amazing. It actually follows a certain number of days, a certain number of weeks when this centuries-long conflict that's been seething and breathing underneath this society flares up, and one side that just thought would never be able, a little bit more of a tribal system, raises up and takes like the society of city builders. And it's like, this could never happen. We have walls, we have protection, and then for some reason they bring about some type of magic that enables them to just lay waste. And this is very, very close to the beginning of book 1. And then the rest of the book is like the siege, the occupation. And we look at that occupation, it brings to mind so many hotspots in the world today that you could name and tie a parallel to. and you start to see these personalities and these characters as an occupying force takes over their homeland. And again, it's compressed into just a certain number of weeks, and how these personalities will have to completely morph and shift and become somebody different and rise up as destiny asks them to keep their freedom and their beliefs going, their very lives going, their families' lives going. It's such an amazing look at occupation that I don't think I've seen in fantasy otherwise. And I just so enjoyed it. And by book 2, all of this gets spun on its head. I kept wondering how we're going to go through these 3 books and just have a linear movement of time compressed so like this. And then there's a plot device in book 2 that it just blew my hair back and sent me over the top. And it allows us to have a longer time to tell the story over. And I thought it just worked so well and was quite inventive, and I really enjoyed it. And there are just surprises laid out all the way through books 1, 2, and 3, all the way to that end where oh my gosh, the character arcs in this, someone where they end up and what happens. And if you know, you know. At the end of book 3, there are just lovely gifts and surprises all the way through all 3 books here. And I just cannot recommend this high enough. That's why it's at number 7, The Last War Trilogy by Mike Shackle.
Have you spoken with Mike Shackle at all? Like, has he been on the channel?
He has not. I would love for him to be. A huge comic fan, just like me. And you can tell that in the way he creates a villain. Like, wow, can he create a villain you love to hate?
Wow.
Like,
it'd be cool to have Mike Shackle on. Yeah, absolutely.
We absolutely should have Mike Shackle on. You're going to have to throw this one up here, number 6. I don't have it up here.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. I know Cosmere is a big sprawling thing, but I have to put in Mistborn Era 1 for one of my favorite trilogies. This was just early on in my Sanderson journey, in my Cosmere journey. I read Mistborn Era 1, and I was wowed by not only the magic system and the character and the world building, all those things that we come to expect from Sanderson, but what I was really knocked out by here was the architecture of the plot. From book 1 to the end of book 3, everything was so lovingly carved and detailed. Every breadcrumb was lovingly laid out for you as a reader that paid off. He left nothing unfulfilled. Everything had a satisfying ending and a wrap-up by the end of book 3. And the amazing part of this magic show is that he still makes it surprising. Even though you see it being built from the foundation all the way up as books 1, 2, and 3 go, and you get to the climax and the satisfaction of the Sanderlance at the end, and it's like, oh my gosh, I should have seen that. It was right in plain sight. He built this so cleverly and so well, and at the same time, it still surprised me at the end. And he had surprises for the end of book 1, 2, and 3. These character arcs, it revolves around, what if the Dark One won? And what if a character, very much like an Ocean's 11 type con man, puts a team together to do the ultimate job, which is to bring the Dark One down and to give the world back to the people. And just amazing character journeys. Vin and Alond are like 2 of my favorites in all the Cosmere. Kelsier, Sazed, I could just keep going on. Some of the characters in this first one, I carry him right here, especially the way Sazed ended up makes him one of my favorite characters of all the Cosmere. If you know, you know. No spoilers here. But if you have not started your Cosmere journey, man, Mistborn Era 1 is such a well-built, amazing trilogy as far as architecture and plot goes. Hats off to it. That's why it's number 6 for me.
Man, we got to get you a nice copy of Mistborn or something. I'm surprised you don't have that one.
Yeah, I probably need to grab that. Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm gonna duck out again and grab the first 5 so you can drop
time.
some.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, changeover. You ready?
There's something down there. It's not the submarine we were looking for. It's something else. We're all sick. And we're hearing things.
let's get right into it. Number 5. Now, hey, some people may argue this decision. They say, oh, no, that's part of a longer series. It's all one big story. And you know what? I thought the same thing. But then when I got the rules from the Home Office, I was fully allowed to call this a trilogy within a larger cycle and put it in. So I assure you the Home Office has approved this. And I got to go the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie that kicks off the entire First Law cycle. 2 trilogies with 3 standalones. I'm right in the middle of the standalones, but I have finished the first trilogy, and oh my gosh, there is no way this does not make my list. Number 5, the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. He takes all of these tropes that we have come to know and love, from the Arthurian legend to Lord of the Rings to, I mean, you name a classic fantasy tale, he's got tropes in here from it, but it's through his specific, twisted, bizarre, comical, dark lens. He takes everything and subverts it. He makes everything revolve around character, and these character voices, he is absolutely the king of voice. What a genius stroke to not only use character voice, but with particular characters at times, their inner monologue. And it's that juxtaposition between what they say to the world and what they're thinking about the world that sometimes brings the perfect flavor of dark comedy in the middle of catastrophe that just over and over again, you find yourself chuckling out loud. This is just, it follows the hero's journey as you have seen many, many times, but at the same time, you're following these heroes that you have to question over and over again. How am I rooting for these people? They have serious dark cores, but are they though? Are those dark cores there? Or is it just a response to the bleakness of the world and what they have to do to survive in it? And they are truly heroes to hold on to any shred of humanity and have any kind of code that they follow, whether it be a barbarian that is just known for slaying anything in his past. He just wants to retire. He just wants to maybe sit on the front porch and watch the grass grow. A torturer that has been tortured himself. These characters, they still have a little shining gossamer center of morality that they follow as a code in themselves, which to me is heroic that they're able to hold on to in this world. And love love Baez. If you know, you know. These characters are absolutely amazing. I can't go too deep into it, but it's so many wonderful moments of the Arthurian legend here for me that I love, turned on its head. Moments of Shakespeare that I love, turned on its head. Such a great job of walking the walk, taking so many things that he has loved from story and owning them, taking him for himself, turning him on their head, make him his own. This is a fine, fun trilogy. People will say book 1 really has no plot. I would disagree with that. Absolutely, this has the highest of recommendations for me. Check it out, First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie.
Knew that one was going to be on the list, but I thought it'd be higher, so I'm curious to see.
Let me tell you, man, these went back and forth.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was very, very difficult. So this brings us up to number 4.
Okay.
Number 4. Oh, look, I was a huge Rift War Saga fan back in the day. I would run to the bookstore when Raymond E. Feist brought out a new series. But recently, I reread the Daughter of the Empire trilogy within this series by Raymond E. Feist and Janny Wirtz. And I believe it is the combination, it is the alchemy of those two minds working together that make this trilogy within that Rift War Saga just stand out for me. I so loved this reread, and I so loved this trilogy. This story of a woman at 3 different phases in her life. A young girl stripped and pulled away from a convent because all of her family has been slain in war, and she has to take up and rule this family and the aristocracy of her world. So she has to. First book is her basically getting her footing of what her life is going to be. It was so unplanned for and so foreign to her. She has to find herself. She has to find her center. She has to find what she stands for. She has to grieve her family in all of this, and in a time in her world where everything is just completely falling around her. All of these traditions are being laid asunder. Then by book 2, she has that footing. But again, destiny is going to call upon her to raise herself up to where destiny needs her in this world to make a change. Each step of these 3 books, whether she be a young girl, whether she be finding love and what love really is and how that changes someone, not only to your inner self, but how you present yourself to the world around you and how you see that world around you changes. And then by book 3, top of her game, but has to leave a lasting mark on the society by raising herself again with all the scars that she's carried from these earlier exploits. So amazingly done to watch this woman grow stronger and stronger and be able to step up against all the slings and arrows that her world throws against her to make a difference and to matter. And I shed tears at the end of each one of these 3 books. And I'm not giving spoilers here. I'm not saying it's from sadness. I'm saying it's from oftentimes the triumph of a journey that you have taken with a character. This character, Mara, that you have the 3 stages of her life so amazingly, beautifully done and drawn by Janie Wirtz and Raymond D. Feist. That has to be my number 4, Daughter of the Empire trilogy by Raymond D. Feist and Janie Wirtz, within the larger Rift War saga.
Happy to see that one on here.
Yeah.
Do you have to read anything else to read that one?
You can jump right in and read that one.
Okay.
In the larger cycle, it is the second trilogy. The Magician would come first. You can jump right in and read Daughter of the Empire trilogy if you would like without the first trilogy. And then you may be pulled and want to go back and see what happened earlier on, because there are some tie-ins, but you don't need it to enjoy this journey of Mara. Absolutely not.
Okay.
And that's why I call it a trilogy. It does stand alone. That's why the Home Office gave me these rules. So next, what's up at number 3?
I don't know.
The Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell. And some people will argue this is not a fantasy, and I will die on this hill. It absolutely is. This is a historical fiction type of retelling of the Arthurian legend. The warlord that comes to power in this time, in this area. This is book 1, The Winter King. And I didn't know which one I picked up there for a second. And it is absolutely fantasy. In book 1, it's so concrete. You're being immersed in this world, in this time, in this classical story of Arthur. And it's so amazingly told by Derfel, a character that's just an everyman, one of us, that's watching this larger-than-life figure sweep through his life and be swept up in his wake and go on these exploits with him. But we can absolutely believe everything that's being told us because it's being told by one of us. It's being told by Derfel. So we get Derfel's life story as well as what's going on around him with Arthur and Guinevere and Lancelot and all of these names that resonate. And they don't always play like you think they would have, but they do always play in such an amazing, concrete, realistic fashion that you think, oh, what a great historical fantasy. What a great historical fiction piece. And then as it moves on, you start to see these little shreds of spirituality, these little shreds of metaphysical happenings going on as Christianity vies for the top spot of ideology against paganism. And you start to go, oh, well, that was that historical, that was happening, that was going on as these two ideologies came into conflict at this time and this place. But then things start happening by book 2, and especially by book 3, that you're going to go, you know what? Merlin did that. Like, he did that. Like, that's straight up magic. Like, the magic system here is the strength of will that you have in your faith and what you can believe in to make happen and change in your world. And if you have enough of that in the faith system that you're attached to, you can absolutely make a change in this series. You can absolutely make a change, and it comes off as magic. What happened there? Frickin' Merlin did that. Like, there's just no two ways to talk about it other than that. No specifics because no spoilers here, but it is fantasy because of that. What is the magic system? It is the two faiths vying for popularity, and which will come out on top, and how much of a will and an attachment you have to one or the other, and how much belief you have, and in that belief will change the way you see and look at the world and define the world, and in that definition is magic, and that is why I call it fantasy, and it is a phenomenal fantasy. If you haven't read this yet, pick it up. If you're a fantasy reader, you think, this might be a little bit too staid for me. It's historical fiction. I prefer a little magic, a little fantasy. You will not be disappointed. This is all in here. A great retelling of Arthur, a truly magical retelling of Arthur. And I couldn't recommend this highly enough. Love this trilogy.
That's
The
the one
Warlord trilogy.
That's the one I was waiting for you to say. And I
Yep.
think I know one more that you're going to say, so I'm curious what you've got next in these
Number
two.
three, The Warlord Chronicles by
Right.
Bernard Cornwell. So number 2,
Yes.
can you guess? Do you know?
I assume Lord of the Rings is going to be in here somewhere. I'm not sure what the other one is.
Oh, you just let me tell you, number 2 is the Farseer trilogy
Of
by Robin Hobb.
course. Yeah.
And again, this is in a larger realm of the Elderling cycle or saga or series, but this absolutely is broken up into trilogies or quartets. This is the very first trilogy. I read this last year. I was just going to dip my toe in and read book 1 when it won a Patreon read, and it blew apart my TBR for the next 2 months because I had to read one a month for 3 months because I had to follow this journey of Fitz as a young man. This spoke to me in ways. Robin Hobb is amazing. She weaves her magic. She understands the life journey. This spoke to me so much of my own personal journey in so many ways, coming into adulthood. The same tropes that we see, a bastard being dropped off at a hierarchy aristocracy castle to be raised because the mother can't deal with Fitz. And from there, the search for a father figure. Where can I find meaning? Where can I find direction? A young lad. And as the series goes on, first love and what that does and how that takes over your life, every waking moment of desire and thought goes to that person you found. These questions of identity as you come to find out who you are and who is your North Star as far as mentors and who is your love. What will you mean to the world? How will you change the world? What will you stand for in this world? Where will you draw the line and say no more? And what does that line cost you if you're a king's man and you stand at that line? Will it cost you your love? Will it cost you your mentorships? Will it cost you your relationships? Will it cost you your place in the world? Will you become unpopular? How deep does your desire run through you to stand on that line? All of these things are asked and lovingly answered. And amazing, I gotta say, the best animal companion I've ever read in this trilogy. Just hands down, just bang, period.
Ever.
Fight me.
Wow.
I'm gonna go with Night Eyes 10 times out of 10. And by the end of this trilogy, as a full-grown man, knowing what he'll stand for, knowing the cost that will pay, knowing what he has to give up to do it, it spoke to me once again because it was paced at the beautiful pace of real life. There are arduous moments where you just think the end will never come. But that speaks to me so much of life, and it spoke to me so much at the end, my own personal artistic journey I had gone, what it takes to create, what you have to give of yourself to that creation to make it fly. There were just so many beautiful metaphors and magical moments throughout all of these character journeys, all of them, Kettrigan and Burrich and Night Eyes and Fitz, and you could name them all. They are all completely, fully realized, lovingly crafted with motivations that completely make sense, that chart for you. You never wonder why anyone's doing anything because they always answer to their own character that's been lovingly built by Robin Hobb. And a masterclass in world building. She does not spend so much time on world building, but it is that framing narrative again, as Fitz is a much, much older man telling his story. So he kind of has tangents as he tells his story, and he will talk a bit about the world at that time and what was going on. So you have just enough of a cheat sheet before you go into that chapter of the world and what's going on. And then you go into that chapter and it's all character. She gives you just enough set dressing and lighting so the characters can take center stage and be the stars of the show and the world building. You never have info dumps. There's never intruded upon. These characters always carry the show on their shoulders. And it was just so well done. Those little hints of what you need about the world and what's going on. And then as the show starts to roll or the chapter begins, it's all about the people. And I just absolutely love that. This is why it's number 2 on my all-time list for trilogy. So what would be number 1?
I mean, I thought Lord of the Rings, but with the reaction
You already
had,
called it. You know it's
Okay.
Lord of the Rings.
There we go.
There would be nothing else without Lord of the... And I know, look, it's one book. Tolkien meant for it to be one long story, but when I first read this as a young person, when I first realized what I was going to love, what lens was I going to see the world through and try and understand this world, because I believe there's magic in the world. So oftentimes a fantasy world will speak to me more as reality than the real world at times. And that's how my lens works. The first time that type of reality hit me and understanding hit me, it was from reading Lord of the Rings. And I read it in 3 books. Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King. And so it always in my mind, it's going to be those 3 books that I brought home from the school library and read when I was a young person. So that's why I'm going to count it always as a trilogy, because it's indelibly etched in my life as one from that time. And from reading it, I was forever changed. Not only did it make me understand I believe in magic in the world, and I can see the world's reflection in these fantasy worlds sometimes, even more so than when I look around my neighborhood or watch the news. This is such an amazing example of what is the best of us at our core. The most lovely protagonists are the everyman that's going to shoulder more than he should ever, even never be asked to shoulder, but he's going to do it anyway because of friendship and loyalty and responsibility and all those higher angels that call to us and make us live an upright and good life. Frodo is going to be an example of all of that. And the fellowship around him, what are they going to stand for? Strength and courage and humor and loyalty and wisdom. All the amazing parts of our existence that we can aspire to are illustrated beautifully as an example here through this quest to destroy the One Ring. And it works not only as a grand tale and a perfect example of world building, but it works as a roadmap of what is best in us and how to interact with others and our world by aspiring to be that. And that's why it is my number 1, because from that time when I read it, it hit me that way. And that is why I have always been enamored and enjoying and going on heroes' journeys with these characters, because I think this hit me at just the right time in my life. That is why it's my number 1. I can't imagine it ever not being my number 1 trilogy.
Of course. Now that you've said it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I should probably finish Return of the King, shouldn't I?
Oh my God. Hey, that's me. And that's just based on what I've read. And I haven't got to so many amazing ones. Hit us up in comments. Let us know what I'm missing. Gosh, I know Greenbone Saga. I know there's so many out there that I haven't got to, that I have stacked up here and I can't wait to get to. Let me know what you think I should grab next. Let me know what you think will really impact me and change the way I see the world and change the way I see myself, because that was what art and story can do. Let us know in comments. We love comments. The whole reason we started this channel was to talk back and forth with people that love books, love the kind of books that we love. So hit us up in comments. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button for us. I know you don't even think about it, but it makes such a difference. It helps us grow. It helps us meet new people, bring them together, talk about art and story. And it's the best way to low stress, low key way to help and support the channel. And maybe if this is your first time to see, hey, what's on this guy's list, and you haven't stopped by here again, hit that subscription button. Oh, you join this group of this ever-growing group of people that just loves to hang out and loves to talk about story and a hero's journey and character and world building and all these things that are energizing to us and magical to us. It's just a great place to be. And you'll see, you hit that button, you join this group, it's going to give you a tingle without a doubt. And if that's not enough, where else can they find us? We're all over the place, right, bud?
Oh, man, you can join our Discord. You can find us on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Join our Patreon. I'm sure we talked about that. That clip went in earlier.
All that's down there for them, right?
Absolutely.
Click on any and all. The Discord is the most fun because you can join sprints, you can join reading groups, you can join book clubs. It is the place to hang out and talk about art and story and what it means to us, and it's right there for you.
And you can check out our own website and learn more about our book that we're writing. That's kind of the last place.
I think that's down there too, right?
Yeah, down there for every video now.
Check that out. So there you go. That's right. We might have had a little sponsored trailer about that earlier.
I think so. I believe we did.
Awesome. That's it for us, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is John Minton. That is
Gollum.
Oh wow! Aim higher.
Hey.
At least give me a Samwise.
Oh man, Samwise is the best. That's aiming for the peak.
Have a Pip at Mary. Pick,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mary. I like Mary a lot.
There you go. I'll accept that.
I'll do Mary.
I'll accept that. Thank you so much. My name is John Minton. This has been Talking Story.